These are the artists you love who are shamelessly copying Michael Jackson, from Chris Brown to The Weeknd, from Bruno Mars to BTS. The king of pop's influence isn't just present in today's music, it's being Xeroxed, replicated, and sometimes straight up stolen. Michael Jackson died in 2009, but watch any major pop performance today and you'll see him. The moonwalk, the vocal hiccups, the military jackets, the single glove, they're everywhere. What started as influence has become something else entirely, and the numbers paint a clear picture. MJ sold over 500 million records worldwide. His Thriller album alone moved 70 million copies globally. His YouTube videos have collected over 15 billion views. But here's what's really happening. An entire generation of artists has built careers on his blueprint, and some aren't even trying to hide it anymore. Let's start with the most obvious culprit, Chris Brown. Since 2007, Brown has made copying Michael Jackson his brand. He doesn't just borrow moves, he recreates entire performances. In 2010, Brown himself admitted, "I've studied Michael Jackson since I was a small kid. He's my biggest influence." Studied is one word for it. Watch his BET Awards tributes, his music videos, his concert footage, the moonwalk, the spins, the kicks, the vocal ad-libs. It's all there. He's even replicated MJ's famous anti-gravity lean from Smooth Criminal, a move so unique that Jackson literally patented it in 1993 as patent number 5255. But Brown isn't alone in this. The Weeknd took it to another level during his After Hours era. The red jacket, the moves, the entire aesthetic, it was Michael Jackson filtered through 2020. The Weeknd told Rolling Stone that Michael Jackson is everything to me. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. That's honest, at least. But when does homage become something else? When Blinding Lights dominated the charts, critics noticed the MJ influence wasn't just musical, it was visual, choreographic, and stylistic. The Weeknd wasn't channeling Michael Jackson, he was cosplaying him. Then there's Bruno Mars, who's made a career out of being a human jukebox of influences, with MJ at the top of the playlist. Mars said in 2017, "You can't escape Michael Jackson, he's everywhere. Every artist has been influenced by him." True enough, but Mars doesn't just show influence, he shows mimicry. The footwork, the vocal runs, the stage presence. Watch 24K Magic and tell me you don't see Thriller-era Michael. It's uncanny, and it's also incredibly successful. The pattern goes deeper than these obvious examples. Justin Timberlake spent the 2000s trying to be the white Michael Jackson. Usher built his entire performance style on MJ's foundation. Neo openly admits to studying Jackson's vocal techniques. Justin Bieber's attempted transition from teen star to adult performer leaned heavily on Jackson's playbook. Even BTS, the Korean pop sensation, faced accusations of directly lifting MJ's choreography between 2018 and 2021. But here's where it gets interesting. Michael Jackson himself was building on something that came before. The moonwalk? He didn't invent it. It was originally called the backslide in street dance culture, and Jeffrey Daniel taught it to him. The robot? That came from the pop and lock scene. Jackson was a student who became the master, taking existing elements and transforming them into something iconic. So when modern artists copy him, are they just continuing a tradition? The answer lies in the execution. On March 25, 1983, Michael Jackson performed the moonwalk publicly for the first time on Motown 25. That 3-second glide backwards while appearing to walk forward changed entertainment forever. But Jackson didn't just do the move, he made it mythology. He understood that performance wasn't just about the steps, it was about the story, the mystery, the magic. Today's copycats often miss this crucial element. They replicate the movements but not the meaning. They wear the glove but don't understand why Jackson wore it, which was initially to hide his vitiligo condition. They grab their crotches without the defiant sexuality that made the gesture shocking in the 1980s. They're doing Michael Jackson karaoke. The numbers tell the story of this influence. Jackson won 13 Grammy Awards and 26 American Music Awards, but what matters more is that he created a template that's still being used 4 decades later. The Thriller video revolutionized what music videos could be. The idea of the short film instead of the promotional clip, that was Jackson. The elaborate choreography that required weeks of rehearsal, Jackson. The fashion that became as important as the music, Jackson again. And now, in 2024, we're seeing something new. The TikTok generation discovering and replicating MJ moves without always knowing the source. The moonwalk appears in countless videos. The Thriller zombie dance remains the most imitated choreography in history. Young creators are copying copies of copies, a Xerox of a Xerox until the original almost disappears. The legal landscape makes this copying easier. Choreography is rarely copyrightable. You can't own a dance move the way you own a song. Jackson's anti-gravity lean was patentable because it required a mechanical device, special shoes with heel slots that hooked into the stage. But the moonwalk, the spin, the kick, they're fair game, and everyone's taking their shot. Even female artists aren't immune. Dua Lipa faced controversy in 2020 when her physical video featured moonwalking. Doja Cat incorporates MJ-inspired moves into her performances. The influence crosses gender lines because Jackson's appeal was universal. Beyoncé said it best in 2009, "No one will ever impact the way Michael Jackson impacted music and dance." But impact and imitation are different things. When Jackson popularized the moonwalk, he was adding to a vocabulary of movement. When artists today replicate it move for move, they're not adding anything, they're photocopying. The difference between influence and imitation is innovation. Jackson took the backslide and made it the moonwalk. He took military jackets and made them pop fashion. He took the music video and made it cinema. What are today's artists making? Some argue this is how art works. Every artist builds on what came before. The Beatles influenced everyone. Elvis influenced everyone. James Brown influenced everyone. But there's a difference between building on a foundation and living in someone else's house. And too many of today's artists have moved into Michael Jackson's house and refused to leave. The 2024 biopic Michael, starring Jackson's nephew Jafar Jackson, has only intensified this trend. Suddenly, everyone wants to capture that MJ magic again. Fashion weeks feature military jackets. Music video directors openly credit MJ influence. The hologram tours promise to bring Michael back, but he never left. He's in every pop star who spins, every R&B singer who hiccups through a vocal run, every dancer who slides backwards while the crowd screams. The tragedy isn't that artists copy Michael Jackson. The tragedy is that they copy him instead of doing what he did, which was taking influences and transforming them into something new. Jackson studied James Brown, but became Michael Jackson. He watched Fred Astaire, but created his own style. He learned the backslide, but gave the world the moonwalk. Today's artists seem content to just moonwalk. They're not interested in creating their own signature moves. They want the shortcut to iconography without the work of innovation. They want the crown without the kingdom building. They want to be the king of pop without understanding what made Jackson royalty in the first place. It wasn't just the moves. It was the perfectionism that had him recording multiple takes with subtle variations. It was taping his fingers to create sharper movement lines. It was the obsession with detail that turned a simple lean into a patented piece of performance art. It was the willingness to be weird, to be different, to be himself even when himself was increasingly eccentric. The modern music industry doesn't reward that kind of individuality. It rewards familiarity. It rewards what works, and what works is Michael Jackson, or at least a simulation of him. So we get Chris Brown doing MJ tributes. We get The Weeknd in red leather jackets. We get Bruno Mars with the footwork. We get a generation of performers who've memorized the steps but missed the spirit. Cultural appropriation enters the conversation too. When non-black artists copy Jackson's moves, they're not just copying an individual, they're copying traditions rooted in Black American culture. The dancing, the vocal style, the fashion, it all comes from a specific cultural context. Jackson was a black artist who broke barriers. When artists of other backgrounds replicate his style without acknowledging that context, it raises questions about who gets to profit from black innovation. The homage versus plagiarism debate will continue. Some see imitation as flattery. Others see it as creative bankruptcy. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. Yes, influence is inevitable. Yes, artists will always borrow from their heroes. But there's a difference between being influenced by Michael Jackson and being a Michael Jackson impersonator. As we move through 2024 and into 2025, the pattern shows no signs of stopping. If anything, AI technology and deepfakes will make it easier to copy not just Jackson's moves, but his voice, his likeness, his entire persona. The ethical debates are just beginning. Who owns Michael Jackson's moonwalk in the age of artificial intelligence? Who gets to decide how his influence is used or abused? The answer might lie in what Jackson himself would have wanted. He was an innovator who pushed boundaries. He didn't want to be James Brown or Jackie Wilson or Fred Astaire. He wanted to be Michael Jackson, and he wanted to inspire others to be themselves, not carbon copies of him. So the next time you see your favorite artist moonwalk across the stage, ask yourself, are they honoring Michael Jackson, or are they hiding behind him? Are they building on his legacy, or are they strip mining it? Are they influenced, or are they impersonating? The king of pop gave the world a vocabulary of movement, a library of sounds, a catalog of visual innovation. He sold 500 million records and won enough awards to fill a museum. But his greatest achievement might have been showing artists what was possible when you committed fully to your own vision. The tragedy of modern pop music isn't that it copies Michael Jackson. The tragedy is that it copies him instead of learning from him. Michael Jackson didn't become the king of pop by copying anyone. He became the king by being absolutely unapologetically himself. He took influences and alchemized them into something new. He studied the masters and then became one. That's the difference between influence and imitation. That's the line between homage and theft. That's what your favorite artist doesn't understand when they put on the single glove and try to moonwalk their way to greatness. The moves can be copied. The style can be replicated. The vocals can be imitated, but the spirit of innovation, the willingness to be different, the commitment to transformation, that can't be photocopied. That has to be earned. And until artists understand that, they'll keep moonwalking in place while Michael Jackson's ghost dances circles around them.